Good evening, and welcome back to the TENTHisle. My name is Ryan, and this is Dagon. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices in action sequences or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Spooky.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Alright. During a game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others will reveal interesting facts. Ooh, cool. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. Alright. James Scott. Wow, they weren't kidding about movement being limited. That's
penniless,
something.
And at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
My God.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Are you I mean, sure.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Whoa. Doing a little writing, alright.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Oh, look at that ship. That's a freaking unit right there, dude. Whoa! Whoa, tell me more.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Oh God, can't be good. The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. Awesome! During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. I always remember the Huns being described as very brutal.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with
Whoa.
water and provisions for a good length of time.
No one tried to kill you? Here's our provisions.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had little idea of my surroundings.
Oh boy, this is a big deal for me. Out alone on the sea, that can't be good.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
It's beautiful. Need a drink.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of
this would be me.
blue.
This would be me.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Oh no. They got us, dudes.
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Holy frick.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Whoa.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
I don't know, man. It's a little bit of both right now.
For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
Definitely freaking me out.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
It's pretty gross. Can we get to our boat? Oh, that squelch.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Only one?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
What the frick?
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
And no seabirds, huh? Fishy.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Oh, what is that? Good God.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water. preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
There we go. There's our bag we're going to travel with. Beautiful.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
Are you sure, dude?
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I guess we're going over that way. Looks pretty gross over here. Ooh, the squelching. Beautiful.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Back over there looks safe. Not really. Big old pincers they're gonna get us.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Aha! Keep going through the worm bodies. Thought I'd say that before.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Good God.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
You gotta be kidding me, bro.
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Sure, why not?
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
Alright. You could show us those dreams? Holy frick.
And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
Climb it up.
Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
The Where would the crest be? Oh, we gotta get our pack. Don't forget your stuff,
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
Oh no. What are we walking into?
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Oh, great.
I felt myself on the edge of the world.
Oh no.
Peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's think about that.
And of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
We're gonna jump?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
Right. That seems fine. We can climb down.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Oh, great. We're just gonna break our legs. We'll be fine.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated.
Oh, great.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
Calling to us.
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Yeah, go over there. Might as well get closer to it. The worst that could happen.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Yeah, right. How'd it get here? Explain that one.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Hell yeah.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Deep down. Dark. In our core.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young,
Oh, man.
I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith,
Called it.
whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
Clearly.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Alright. Yeah, get closer to it. What's the worst that could happen? We're already super close. Might as well get right up on it and touch it a little bit.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone
Whoa.
weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out
Oh.
of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith,
Whoa.
on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Okay, of what? It looked very creepy.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me,
This
and
is
unlike
neat.
anything I'd ever seen in books.
A representation of nature? And a certain you-know-who.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
That underwater nature.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world,
Oh boy.
but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Yeah, we saw him back there. Said hi a little bit. Some of them waved.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
That one, huh? Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness in the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow of Time, and the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo in the Whisper in Darkness. Also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order to not spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across
It's
the
gonna make me
intervening
wanna read
water
more
on account of their enormous
Lovecraft,
size
for sure.
were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
The limited that I've read so far has been amazing, so.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men,
Oh boy. I see.
though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto,
Mer people.
or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Oh boy.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
Me too.
grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a
Oh,
Bulwer.
oh, good God. Oh, that one all the way on the right is just awesome. All of these are great. Oh, man.
They were damnably human in general outline,
Oh, yeah.
despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips.
What if the aliens come from the water?
Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall.
They're already here.
Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
Watching. Waiting.
For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
Possible.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Whoa. That's going deep.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Whoa, yeah, doing some creepy reflections for sure.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
But what?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh boy.
Endless and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith,
Holy shish kebabs.
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then.
Huh. Right there with you.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
How did we get there? Whoa.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Oh no. We a little hammered? With madness?
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Oh boy. Like we're in a big old fever dream.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the
Okay.
captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Oh no.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
How the hell did we get? Oh boy.
Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
That can't be good.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Yeah. Good thing we didn't try to tell them. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than a conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Oh, that is super deep, dude. He's not wrong. Not wrong. I feel like that's pretty spot on.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist.
Deeper and deeper we go.
And amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Nice. Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in the Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretations of his name, as in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Wow! They're right here. Oh, this all looks awesome.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Okay. August Derelict was an American writer, so this is August Derelict and the Cthulhu Mythos. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works throughout his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's work after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of the most questionable decisions involved in introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derelict was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misinterpreted in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derelict after the author left the mortal plane. Ah, so it's after he died that they did that. Ah, interesting. Fuck. Oh. Turn a little fast there. Clock say. I guess we're going over the door. We're just checking the time. No big deal.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Oh boy.
I tried morphine.
Guessing that didn't work.
But the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Oh, great. We're
so
addicted.
now, I am to
That's
end it
bad.
all, having written a full account for the information
Oh, shit.
or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
I mean, maybe we take a look at some things here. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Oh, this ought to be really good. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown dated 13th February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate, natural equipoise of the evolved in human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of their prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as any other. Wow. That's a stance for sure.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm,
Could be.
a mere freak of fever, as I lay
Told you,
sun-stricken
could be a
and
fever dream.
raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed,
Oh boy.
worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind.
And we would have it coming.
Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Oh boy. They're coming for us.
The end is near.
Oh boy.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Yep, coming for us. We've barricaded the door.
It shall not find me.
I mean, it definitely is going to find us. Told you.
God, that hand!
Found us.
The window! The window!
Didn't stick the landing. That was awesome. And so concludes our experience with Dagon. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to embrace the chill of that deep, dark